Welcome to GV Yoga Live. My name is Charlie. Welcome, my friend, to day one of our 5-day hamstring stretch challenge. I'm so glad that you are here joining me for this challenge because it's going to keep me accountable too, because the back of the legs, the hamstrings, they are relentless. When they are tight, they take consistency to open them up. So that is what they need. They need a challenge. They need 5 consistent days, and that is what we're doing starting today, day one. And so for this challenge, I'm going to be using 3 props. I'm going to be using a block, which I am sitting on right now. If you don't have a block, grab some books. I'm going to be using a strap. You can use a belt, and I'm also going to be using a rolled up towel. I'm sure you have a towel or a blanket, but if you do not have these 3 things available, do not worry about it in the slightest. Use it just so I can offer you modifications. But that's basically all I have to say. I'm ready to dive into day one with you, so let's get started. Would you like to improve your strength and flexibility? Transform your mind and body? Subscribe to our channel and visit jivayogalive.com. All right, guys, I'm so glad that you are here with me on day one of our hamstring stretch challenge. And so I told you that I was going to be using some props. I'm just going to show you again now what I am using. So a block, if you have one available, otherwise a stack of books is great. You can grab a towel or a blanket, just roll that up. And then I'm also going to be using a strap, but if you do not have a strap, you can use a belt. All of these props are optional, so don't worry if you don't have them. But let's get ready and dive into our day one. So I want to give you a baseline. We're going to have this foundational pose that we're going to come back to every single day of the challenge so we can see the improvements that we're making. So if you are using a block, grab it now. Perfectly fine if not. And we're going to come into a standing forward bend. So come to the top edge of your mat. We'll just quickly check in with our alignment here. So rooting down through all 4 corners of the feet. Just making sure that the legs are parallel, slight tuck of the tailbone, and then take a breath in. Just close the eyes for the moment. Just finding that stability in the legs. And then we're going to inhale. We're going to slowly bring the arms up overhead. Now I really want you to reach through with the fingers here. Find length through the spine, through the arms. You can even take a couple of movements left and right, just really getting that length through the torso, the left and right side bodies. Coming up, take another breath in. And then as you exhale, we're going to hinge at the hips, coming down into our standing forward fold. So try and not round at the waist or the upper back. We really want to initiate this motion from the hips, coming down. And so if you are wanting to use your block here, just go ahead, make sure it's just in front of you so you can come down and bring the earth a little bit closer. All right, so where are you at? This is your first pose, your foundational check-in pose, your Uttanasana, standing forward bend. So maybe you're using the block. You can have it up on the highest setting, really bringing the mat closer. How does that feel in the back of the hamstrings, guys? If that's all right, we can flip it around, coming down onto the middle setting. Take a breath, see how that feels. And if that's all right, let's flip it down one more time, coming onto the lowest setting of the block. If you're using a book, that's great. Just see how the back of the legs are feeling. Take a breath in. Exhale. And then maybe you don't need this block. Maybe you can take it to the side. Maybe the mat is available to you. You might be up on the fingertips, that's great, or down on the palms. You can have a slight micro bend in the knees, but try and work to get them as straight as is comfortable. You don't want to lock them out. And then whenever you get to your sweet spot of this standing forward bend, just drop the head, drop the neck, relaxing completely. All right, so this is your baseline. This is your standing forward bend. We're gonna check in every day. We're gonna see where we're at. We're gonna see what improvements we're making. So take a mental note right here. Take a breath in. Maybe folding a little bit deeper. And then slowly pressing through the feet. Start to roll back up. We're gonna come back to standing. And then roll the shoulders up, back and down. So keep that in mind. Where were you? Where were you at on your day one of our challenge? We're gonna check in every day. We're gonna see the improvements that we're making. And in 5 days, you can accomplish a lot. The best thing about 5 days is it's not a big deal. It's not a big number, but the gains you can make in opening up the body, they're huge. So let's just trust me and we'll see what happens. And so let's get started with our day one, guys. So again, coming back, top edge of the mat, taking the feet a little bit wider this time. And then we're gonna inhale, send the arms up overhead. And then exhale, bring the palms down through center into your chest. And we're gonna bend the knees, coming down into a squat pose. So coming into Malasana. And so you might be wondering why we are working into the hips right now when the aim is to open the hamstrings. Well, we're not just dancing around your problem area. The whole point is when you want to work with opening the back of the legs, you have to work with opening the rest of the body, so specifically the hips and the back. And so taking a breath here. Having the elbows into the inside of the knees, palms are pressing in against one another. Sending that tailbone down. You can close the eyes. And just become aware of that stretching sensation at the groins and the inner thighs. 5 breaths here. One more breath. And then exhale. We're going to take the hands behind us and we're going to come to a seat. Just bringing the legs out in front, soles of the feet together. We're just creating a diamond shape with the legs. I'll turn to face you guys so you can see what I'm doing. And so again, we're still working into the hips here. When we open the hips, we're gonna open up the back of the legs. It goes hand in hand. So 2 birds, 1 stone kind of deal yoga. When we open up the rest of the body, I don't know what I'm saying. So just having those feet together, take a moment to lengthen up through the spine. Make sure that both sitting bones are pressing into the earth and have the thighs externally rotating down towards the mat. Allow gravity just to pull them down. And then we're going to interlace these fingers around the toes. Take a breath in and lengthen up. And then exhale, start to come down. So we're not rounding the spine at this point. We're hinging with the hips, but we're bringing the heart towards the feet. Notice how that stretch is really getting into the inner thighs. And those hips, take one more breath. And then exhale, find your full expression of this pose and drop the head, drop the neck, release any tension there. Five more breaths here, guys. I'll count them in my head, you count them in yours. Just allow gravity to open the legs like the pages of a book. And then slowly we're going to peel ourselves, coming back up, lengthening up through the spine, just grabbing the feet, and we're just going to bounce the knees up and down. Just imagine the wings of a butterfly here. And then we can get ready for our next pose, which is pigeon pose. So I'll just turn to the side so you can see. But we're going to keep our left leg, keep that shin parallel to the front edge of the mat, and we're going to extend this right one back behind us. And then coming up onto the fingertips as we lengthen that back leg, untucking the toes. And just notice in your own body, there's a bit of a tendency to come down onto that left hip. This is not what we want to do. We want to use the hands at the sides and prop ourselves up, even those hips, and send the tailbone down into the mat. And then if the earth is a little further away than is comfortable on this left side, what you can do is grab your towel or blanket and slide it underneath the hip. It's going to bring the earth a little bit closer just to keep the hips square and even. If even this is not doing the job, you can grab your block or your book and just slide it underneath. I don't need either, so I'm just gonna put them back, but this is your journey. We're all coming from our own starting point with the hamstrings here and the hips, so just use what is available. There's no peak pose here, we're just opening up the body. So coming into your half pigeon, take a breath in to lengthen up through the spine. And then exhale, maybe trying to come down a little bit. First onto the forearms. See how that feels? And then if we're maintaining integrity in those hips, keeping them square, and it feels okay, we can come down even further, coming down onto the forehead. So find that expression in your body and take 5 breaths. All right, we're slowly going to peel the body back up. Use the hands to guide you. And then we're going to take the pigeon pose to the other side. So just kicking this back leg forward, bending at the knee, and then sending the left leg back. So again, you want to try and have this front shin parallel to the top edge of your mat. But notice how even in my body, my shin automatically comes closer into the groin. The foot comes in. I don't really know that many people who can keep that perfect parallel leg. So bring it in if you need to. The most important thing is just having that integrity in the hips, keeping them square. So again, using your blanket or your book, sliding it underneath the hips so they're even. Taking the hands to the side, take a breath in, lengthen up, and then exhale. Start to walk yourself down. First onto the forearms, and then we can come down to the forehead if that feels good, and take 5 breaths here. And then slowly coming back up, just the way you went in. Take a breath at the top, just to lengthen up and stretch the spine. And then exhale. We're gonna bring that back leg forward. And so as we are working on the hips, we wanna come full circle. So our next pose is cow face pose, Gomukhasana. So we're gonna flip on over to our hands and knees. Just take a breath here with a neutral spine. Exhale, we're going to send this left knee forward, bringing it into the center of the hands, and then kick the shin out towards the right. Bring the back knee in, and you really want to get the knees stacked. Really tuck it in as close as you can. Have your block handy just in case you need it, because we're going to come to sit back down on the earth. The aim is to have both of your sit bones even on the mat. So if you're up here, you just want to slide your block underneath to bring the earth a little closer. If the block is too much, you just need a little bit more. Your towel is perfect. You can get that under there. It just creates that firm, even base. So just finding that in your body now. And then aiming to have the knees as stacked as you can. Don't worry if they're not lining up perfectly, but the aim is to have them in line. Then we can just grab the feet, lengthen up through the spine, actively drop the shoulders down away from the ears. And so in full cow face pose, there is a variation where we bind the arms, but because we're really just focusing on the hips here, we're gonna do a variation where we walk the body forward. So start with a straight spine, take a breath in. And then as you exhale, we're gonna crawl the hands out in front. And so even for me, immediately, this is turning on my outer hips. It's an amazing stretch. Take a breath in. This might be as far as you go. But as you exhale, maybe see if you can come a little bit deeper. The aim is to keep both hips and sit bones on the mat. So don't let them pop up. If they do, you stay there. Otherwise, come down with me now, guys. And so with each exhale, I try and drop my forehead down a little closer. And we'll take 5 breaths here. Okay, amazing work. Let's slowly bring the body back up. And we're gonna change sides. So we're just gonna come forward onto all fours, unravel those legs. And then this time we're gonna send that right knee forward first, kicking the shin out to the left, tucking that left knee as close in behind as you can. Try and really get those knees to connect. And then sitting back onto the sit bones. And don't expect both sides to be the same. You might need the block this time and you didn't before. Just roll with it. All good. Just get those knees as parallel. Just get those knees as stacked as you can. And then we'll take a breath in to lengthen. And then as you exhale, let's walk that body down. Remember, you want to keep both hip bones down on the earth. Using each exhale to come a little bit deeper, maybe down to the forearms. And then eventually we're going to drop the head, drop the neck, relax the shoulders, take 5 breaths here. All right, slowly bringing the torso back up using the hands. Just gonna lean the hands behind us and extend the legs out in front. Amazing work. And so I have 2 more poses for you. And our first one we're gonna do is Dandasana, our staff pose. So extending these legs out in front. And so I remember when I first realized that I just had 0 flexibility in my hamstrings. And I would sit and I would flex my feet back, and this was enough to just turn this insanely deep stretch into the back of the legs. And so for you, this could be an intense stretch, our staff pose. So let's get into it. We're gonna bring the hands down to the hips, palms are going into the mat, fingers are facing forward. I'm gonna lengthen up through the spine. Actively drop the shoulders down away from the ears to open the chest here. Just tuck the chin back a little bit just to lengthen through the spine. And then we're just flexing the feet back towards the face. And so I've come a long way in my 6 years of yoga, but this used to be an intense old time. So how does this feel for you? It doesn't look like there's much going on in the body in Dandasana, but the whole body is actually active. We're activating all of the muscles just to stay up straight and to keep the toes coming back. So take 5 breaths here. Just keep pulling those toes back to the face. One more breath. All right, inhale, start to just bring these arms up overhead, moving into our last pose. Breath in, drop the shoulders down away from the ears. And then exhale, we're gonna hinge at the hips, coming into Paschimottanasana, our seated forward bend. So notice how I'm hinging at the hips. I'm not trying to round the spine, I'm not bending at the waist. I'm aiming my heart towards the knees and my forehead towards my toes. Actively keep drawing the shoulders back away from the ears. And just see where you're at. This is day 1, so maybe the hands come down to the mat. Maybe they come onto your shins. Maybe you want to grab your strap or your belt, loop them around the feet to pull you closer. Or maybe you can go deeper than this. Maybe you can grab your block, put it in front of the feet, and use that to come even deeper. This is all going to be dependent on where you're at. This is your challenge. But find that sweet spot now, and we're going to settle in for 5 breaths. And wherever you are at, once you get into your full expression, drop the head, drop the neck. Just let it be heavy, no tension at all. 3 more breaths. So this is another great pose to check in with how open the hamstrings are. So maybe we can check in with this on day 5 as well, just to see the kind of improvements we've made. One more breath here. And then slowly start to peel the body back up. Coming back to a seat. We can cross the legs. And that, my friend, is day 1. So I know it might seem like we've kind of danced around the problem area, but I promise you that when you want to open the back of the legs, you have got to work on other parts of the body, which is why today our focus was on the hips. If you have the time, I recommend going through this sequence another time and spending up to 5 minutes in each of these poses, just allowing the body to respond to where we are taking it. And so thank you so much for joining me today on day 1. I'm so glad that you're here doing this with me. Even as a yoga teacher, these are my hamstrings, they're my nemesis, my arch nemesis, so I'm glad we can work on it together. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 2, where we're going to do a few more standing poses. We're going to challenge our strength and our balance a little more. And so I will see you then. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.